Mr. Harris, your turn. Councilman Harris, it's your time.
Oh, I withdraw. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to ask about the safety net program here. And I have some questions written down, and I got to get to my notes. I was moved by Tommy Malone and the lady before him, and so let me collect myself. So the safety net program that Mr. Ford has proposed looks like it's a $2 million program. I guess first question is, have we received the money? Have we gotten the money yet?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ford.
Do we have the $2 million?
The $2 million is in savings that's going to be going on from 14 to 15, and instead of using that money operationally, that money will be going to the safety net.
Okay, so we have not. Do we have it now or not?
I'm trying to add, are you asking me, is there a $2 million
Please be quiet in
line?
the audience.
Is there a line item? Is that what you're asking me? Because it's not a line item, it's cost savings that will be a full $2 million June 30, 2015. But instead of having it as $2 million savings at the end, we're going to use that money as a safety net to transition those individuals.
The city of Memphis, do we have control of the $2 million? Or is it at the discretion of another party?
Is it at the discretion of another party because it's a contractual agreement?
All right, so then my next question is, because I'm wondering about the form of this spending proposal, and the form of a spending proposal usually takes the form of, I thought we'd have to amend the budget, and this takes the form of a resolution, so that was the question for Mr. Wade, is this the appropriate form for spending $2 million? But I guess if it's not our money, if we don't have it, that maybe this is fine. Is that okay? Is that right? Just nod your head. You don't have to.
It's a contract. It's a contractual arrangement with a third party, not our budget.
And the other question is, as you figure out the details of the safety net program, will the leaders of the retiree association be able to participate in formulating eligibility and so forth?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No problem.
Have they participated so far?
We have had limited participation, but with the new item that's up, number 13, I encourage that we have that participation as a whole.
And do you have any idea of what levels of subsidies retirees can expect out of this program?
Yeah, we talked about that in the PowerPoint presentation. A couple of things that we did bring forward. We were reintroduced into the Healthcare Committee as well as I got it right here, as well as the recommendations that were put in Councilman Collins' proposal, so yes.
Well, the only thing I wonder is whether or not we expect that these retirees will get a fixed subsidy amount. You know, I've talked to Mike Lee in previous conversations, and he tossed around the idea of a subsidy program several weeks ago, and it was a fixed subsidy for retirees as they transition off of city insurance or the status quo and into the reform program. So you anticipate it'll be like that, and what he talked about in those conversations were $150 a month, $100 a month, so forth. Is that kind of how this might work?
Correct, and I anticipate that when we do finish our due diligence, you will find out that some of the premiums that individuals are paying currently without watering down their insurance, either the premiums will stay the same or be lower.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Ms. Full, let me get your microphone. Ms. Full.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I do want to apologize. I've had surgery in my mouth, so I may not sound as I normally do. But regarding this $2 million, whose idea was this, and where is this money coming from?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ford. I turned off your microphone.
It's a contractual agreement. I asked the administration and I asked members from Cigna, is there any savings that we can find for this upcoming year? Because this is a very important issue, and I asked, could we use that money in savings so that we could transition individuals from one to the other if necessary, because when the budget was passed, this council member didn't see a transition at all that would have been done by the administration. So I asked personally, is there any savings that we can use so that individuals can be educated and know where they're at? What can we do in order to transition them from one to the other if necessary? Just like what we talked about in the presentation today. And the answer was yes. I was informed that we could find $2 million of savings for this 14-15 year, and that money would be used for administrative infrastructure to educate people, let everybody know where they're at so that we won't have anybody not knowing.
So that money is not going towards the retirees, but it's going towards the administration to educate people?
Is going to, hold on. If you're asking if that money is going to personally pay for individuals' insurance, the answer is no. But if you look at the overall picture, that money, in order to save people tens or hundreds of dollars, you have to look at that as the ultimate end game, Ms. Fuller Love.
But you have people that are sitting out here amongst us that have sat here, and I'm not just talking to you, Dr. Ford, that have sat here and told us what those pre-65 retirees will go from, what, $300 to $1,600 to $1,900 a month?
Post.
And you've got $2 million for the administration to educate somebody? You know, it never ceases to amaze me how this administration can come up with these plans after the fact instead of being proactive. Let me tell you all something before I be quiet. The young fireman that came up here talked about his God. Well, I'm going to tell you about mine. He told me to tell you that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Thank
you. Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In relation to what Mr. Lee from Acre was saying about this, and considering the Councilman Collins' resolution that we're hearing next, I see them as working together, as this is one start of a process. And while it says the administration, and they're always welcome to come up with a plan, immediately after it, we have a healthcare proposal going to the healthcare committee with a specific list encompassing some of the questions about this, and they will be coming back by September 16th. Thank you. So I don't think that they're in conflict, and if Mr. Lee's still here, I wanted to ask him about that.
Yes, sir, Councilman.
Yeah, you mentioned about holding it, or maybe it's Mr. Malone, but I mean, the Healthcare Committee, which you serve on.
Yes, sir.
We have a resolution coming up right after this.
Yes, sir.
That is going to be asking specific questions that Councilman Collins had, and then we amended it to entertain the questions of this.
Yes, sir.
Does that at all change your opinion about this, or?
No, if we can get back in there and be open and talk to each other
Yes,
like
sir.
grown men
And
and women.
that's what's contemplated
Yeah.
here, and I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure people understood.
Yeah, do you know I've talked more to y'all than I have the administration? I've not been invited to anything. I represent 2,000 retirees, you know, and I've tried to be honest to y'all. I don't think none of you can say I've given you a false piece of paper. You may not have agreed with it, but I've tried to be honest and open. And all I'm asking for is let's meet on an honest, even keel and try to decide something, you know.
Yes, sir. And my point is, if we look at this, and whether it's the cart, the horse, wherever, as a starting off point to fill the gaps, we combine it with Councilman Collins with the specific recommendations that will be coming up next.
Yes, sir.
Would you consider that a good